articles and features from the Buffalo News for Sunday, April 12th. The weather today will be partly sunny and warmer, with a couple of showers during the afternoon, high 64. Cloudy and breezy tonight, low for 58. A thick cloud cover and windy tomorrow, with a passing shower or two, high 62. Our first feature is from the front page. Western New York leaders seek strategies to stop its population loss. Region has seen a 1.1% decline since the 2020 census. By Stephen T. Watson, news staff reporter. Western New York is shrinking. The region collectively lost 17,400 people between the 2020 census and last summer, according to the latest county-level population estimates released by the Census Bureau. That's a 1.1% decline in the region's population, slightly worse than the 1% decline in the state's overall population over this 5-year period. 6 of the 8 area counties lost population, led by the nearly 3% decline for Chautauqua. Only Allegheny and Genesee counties gained, adding a combined 375 people since the last census. To get those people back here, we're doing what we can, but it's sometimes an uphill battle. Chautauqua County Executive Paul P.J. Wendell Jr. said, academics who study population trends say the region is seeing continued out-migration to the Sun Belt, the lingering effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, and declines in international migration driven by federal policy changes. I would say, at least right now, the best explanation is policy, said Robert Alderman, an urban sociologist at the University at Buffalo. Local officials say they hope the region defies the trend identified in the latest population estimates as they await the formal 2030 census count that will help determine how much federal aid comes to the area and how much representation New York has in Congress and the Electoral College in the years to come. Population estimates show Erie County, the region's most populous county, lost nearly 7,500 people, or just under 1% of its population, between April 2020 and July 2025. But Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz questioned the latest estimates. Our own statistical data with regards to traffic counts and the health department and things like that does not indicate that we are losing population, Poloncarz said. I don't know if we're growing, but we don't see anything that indicates that our population is declining. New York City suburbs, Albany area grew. The Buffalo News in March reported New York lost more residents over the past 5 years than any state besides California, based on state-level data previously released by the Census Bureau. New York is one of 7 states that haven't seen their population rebound from their pre-COVID levels, a period when Texas, Florida, and other states in the South and West have enjoyed a population boom. Late last month, the Census Bureau released county-level population estimates for the country through July 1st. 7 of New York's 62 counties lost 3% or more of their population over this 5-year period, a mix of rural and heavily populated urban counties. The Bronx lost 66,300 people, or 4.5% of its population. Only tiny Schuyler County, home to Watkins Glen, lost a greater share of its population, 5.4%, or 968 people. While New York City shed population, suburbs outside the city on Long Island and in the Hudson Valley, as well as counties in and around the Capital District, gained residents over this period, data show. 3 counties in New York State saw a greater than 3% population increase, Rockland at 5.6% and Orange at 4.1%, both north of New York City, and Cooperstown's Otsego County at 3.6%. During the height of the pandemic, many people who had the opportunity to work remotely left densely populated New York City for outlying suburban and rural communities, said Leslie Reynolds, a researcher with Cornell University's Brooks School of Public Policy. If you had second homes or any sort of vacation home, you were able to move out, she said. Most of Western New York shrank. Western New York saw its overall population fall from 1.56 million in April of 2020 to 1.54 million in July, the census estimates show. The region's population actually rose slightly between 2023 and 2024 by 633 people, the first such increase following 3 years of declines before falling by 2,310 people in 2025. The overall drop of 17,437 people from 2020 to 2025 largely came from Erie, Niagara, and Chautauqua counties. Erie County's reported population fell by 7,485,000, or 0.8%, to 946,741 in 2025. Niagara County's estimated population fell by 3,759, or 1.8% over this period. And Chautauqua's population dropped by 3,524 to 124,126. That's 2.8% decline, was the largest for any of the region's counties, followed by Cattaraugus' 2.1% drop and Wyoming's 2% fall off. Our second feature from the front page, U.S. and Iran start direct peace talks as ceasefire holds. Islamabad. The United States and Iran began face-to-face negotiations Saturday in Pakistan, days after a fragile 2-week ceasefire was announced, as the war that has killed thousands of people and shaken global markets entered its 7th week. The White House confirmed the direct nature of the talks, a rare instance of high-level engagement. Meanwhile, the U.S. military said 2 destroyers transited the Iran-gripped Strait of Hormuz ahead of mine-clearing work, a first since the war began. Iran's state media, however, earlier said Iran forced a U.S. military ship that was attempting to cross the strait to turn around. Iran's state-run news agency said 3-party talks, including Pakistan, had begun after Iranian preconditions, including a reduction in Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon, were met, and after U.S. and Iranian officials met separately with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. The U.S. delegation, led by Vice President Vance, and the Iranian one, led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf, were discussing how to advance the ceasefire already threatened by deep disagreements and Israel's continued attacks against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, whose health ministry said the death toll had surpassed 2,000. Since the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979, the most direct U.S. contact had been in September 2013, when President Barack Obama called newly elected President Hassan Rouhani to discuss Iran's nuclear program. Now talks are underway between Vance, a reluctant defender of the war who has little diplomatic experience, and warned Iran not to try and play us, quote unquote, and Kalibaf, a former commander with Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard, who has issued some of Iran's most fiery statements since fighting began. Red line set. Iran doubled down on parts of its earlier proposal, with its delegation telling Iranian state television it had presented some of the plan's ideas as red lines in meetings with Sharif. Those included compensation for damage caused by the U.S.-Israeli strikes that launched the war on February 28th, and releasing Iran's frozen assets. The war has killed at least 3,000 people in Iran, 2,020 in Lebanon, 23 in Israel, and more than a dozen in Gulf Arab states, and caused lasting damage to infrastructure in 6 Middle Eastern countries. Iran's chokehold on the vital Strait of Hormuz has largely cut off the Persian Gulf and its oil and gas exports from the global economy, sending energy prices soaring. Reflecting the high stakes, officials from the region said Chinese, Egyptian, Saudi, and Qatari officials were in Islamabad to indirectly facilitate the talks. The officials spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive matter. In Tehran, residents told the Associated Press they were skeptical yet hopeful about the talks after weeks of airstrikes left destruction across their country of some 93 million people. Quote, peace alone is not enough for our country because we've been hit very hard. There have been huge costs, end quote, 62-year-old Amir Razeh Far said. Meanwhile, Israel pressed ahead with strikes in Lebanon after saying there is no ceasefire there. Iran and Pakistan have disagreed. The Lebanese state-run news agency reported at least 3 people killed. Officials posture ahead of the talks. President Trump accused Iran of using the Strait of Hormuz, a key artery for global energy supplies, for extortion, and told reporters Friday it would be opened with or without them, quote unquote. Iran's closure of the strait has proved its biggest strategic advantage in the war. Around a fifth of the world's traded oil had typically passed through on over 100 ships a day. Only 12 have been recorded transiting since the ceasefire. On Saturday, Trump said on social media that the U.S. had begun clearing out the strait. Today, we begin the process of establishing a new passage, and we will share this safe pathway with the maritime industry soon, end quote. U.S. Central Command Commander Admiral Brad Cooper later said in the U.S. statement about the destroyers. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had said Tehran was entering negotiations with, quote, deep distrust, end quote, after strikes on Iran during previous rounds of talks. Araghchi, part of Iran's delegation in Pakistan, said Saturday that his country was prepared to retaliate if attacked again. Iran and the United States outlined competing proposals ahead of the talks. Iran's 10-point proposal called for a guaranteed end to the war and sought control over the strait. It included ending fighting against Iran's regional allies, explicitly calling for a halt to Israeli strikes on Hezbollah. The United States' 15-point proposal includes restricting Iran's nuclear program and reopening the strait. Plea from the Vatican. Pope Leo on Saturday urged world leaders to end what he called the madness of war. At a special prayer vigil in St. Peter's Basilica, the first U.S. Pope decried the use of religious language to justify war and said a, quote, delusion of omnipotence that surrounds us, ellipses, is becoming increasingly unpredictable, end quote. Leo, who is known for choosing his words carefully, has emerged an outspoken critic of the war. Negotiations between Israel and Lebanon are expected to begin Tuesday. In Washington, Lebanese President Yosef Aoun's office said a day earlier, after Israelis' surprise announcement authorizing talks despite the country's lack of official relations. But thousands in Lebanon protested and planned talks, and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam said he had postponed a planned trip to Washington, quote, in light of the current internal circumstances, end quote. It was not immediately clear what that meant for the talks. Israel wants the Lebanese government to assume responsibility for disarming Hezbollah, much like was envisioned in a November 2024 ceasefire. But it is unclear whether Lebanon's army can confiscate weapons from the militant group, which has survived efforts to curb its strength for decades. Israel's insistence that the ceasefire in Iran does not include a pause in its fighting with Hezbollah has threatened to sink the deal. The militant group joined the war in support of Iran in the opening days. Israel followed up with airstrikes and a ground invasion. The day the Iran ceasefire deal was announced, Israel pounded Beirut with airstrikes, killing more than 300 people on the deadliest day in Lebanon since the war began, according to the country's health ministry. Reuters contributed to this report. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Our next feature is the front page feature in tourism. Canadians have cooled on the U.S., but not on us. Trump's rhetoric may keep their elbows up, but their arms are open. Quote, in Fort Erie, everybody is happy to see Americans coming across the border, says Dana Nadeau, owner of the Manic Maker Cafe in Fort Erie, Ontario. When Dana Nadeau advertises her popular cafe in the Bridgeburg neighborhood of Fort Erie, Ontario, she targets customers on both sides. On both sides of the Peace Bridge. She counts several American-born neighbors in the community as friends and has regular customers who originate from the United States. Quote, especially in border towns, you're going to get a real mix, said Nadeau, owner of the Manic Maker Bridgeburg's Cozy Corner Cafe. In Fort Erie, everybody is happy to see Americans coming across the border. Her arms remain open to Americans, even if she is afraid to cross the border herself. She's heard too many horror stories about Canadian citizens being detained by U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, she said. For the longest time, Nadeau, who is of Irish descent, wouldn't even drive down nearby Central Avenue out of fear she might accidentally take a wrong turn and end up at the International Bridge. It's a big change for a woman who once traveled to the States regularly just to buy groceries and diapers. I'm terrified, she said. More than a year after President Trump began talking about making Canada, quote-unquote, the 51st state, and kicked off a trade war with the country, many Canadians are holding strong to their promise not to buy American products or visit the United States for as long as he is president. Border crossings in the Buffalo-Niagara region plunged by 16% last year, leaving them 24% below their pre-pandemic level. And border crossings keep dropping. They're down another 11% in the first 2 months of this year. In February, a survey of Politico showed that more than half of Canadians do not believe the United States is a reliable ally. But conversations with Canadian people showed the hard feelings they have about American policy tend not to extend to American citizens. U.S.-Canada relations hit their lowest point in generations, strained by tariffs, annexation, rhetoric, and fears of ICE detention. Canadians along the border are drawing a sharp distinction. They're done with America, but they still love Americans. Even the ones who voted for Trump, said Jesse DeFrias. He chalked up Trump's victory to a quote-unquote bad mistake on American voters' part, one he thinks many Americans now regret. We're more compassionate over here, I think. We're worried about what's going on over there, but I don't think people hold it against Americans, he said. Hopefully they get it right in 3 years, quote-unquote. Even a driver sporting a Trump bumper sticker on their car would likely not face criticism. DeFrias said, not to their face anyway. I don't think anybody would go out of their way to disparage them, but you know what they're thinking, he said. I know what I would be thinking, but I wouldn't go out of my way to say anything. To be sure, some Canadians like the current American president and his policies. But an outspoken Trump fan might not find the warmest welcome everywhere. At Little Red Coffee in Fort Erie, owner Les Lakewood is used to having political opinions outside the mainstream, and that hasn't stopped customers with differing views from coming to have coffee and chat. But while a customer in a red MAGA hat may not be ostracized, they may also not be embraced. Quote, I think they would get their coffee and they probably wouldn't have too much opportunity to have a conversation, end quote, Lakewood said. Still, there's no reason any American should hesitate to visit Canada, he said. Quote, there's no threat, there's no risk, end quote, Lakewood said. If anything, Canadians are scared to go to America because of potential legal issues or military action. We're fine, you can come here, just come. Our next feature is world news. In Iran, Trump's threat still echoes despite pause. Cairo, Iranians have welcomed a fragile ceasefire deal after weeks of Israeli and American bombardment, but many fear the war is far from over. For some, there is also a sense of whiplash after President Trump threatened to wipe out their civilization hours before he reversed course and agreed to an easy truce. The ceasefire that took effect Wednesday has brought relative quiet to the capital, Tehran after more than a month of heavy strikes that targeted mainly government and security buildings, but also destroyed many homes. Major issues remain unresolved, however, and the truce has already teetered. Everyone I've spoken with, it's given them a new life, a university student told the Associated Press in an audio note via WhatsApp app, speaking on condition of anonymity over fears for his safety. Quote, everyone is really happy, unquote, he said. But, quote, Tehran has seen a lot of damage, end quote, he added, and there's widespread concern the fighting would resume. AP spoke to half a dozen residents despite an ongoing nationwide internet shutdown imposed during mass protests before the war. Full of sadness, Maryam Saidpour, a photographer living in downtown Tehran, said she tried to take up painting to keep busy as blasts echoed during the war, but then I saw my hand was shaking and can't, end quote. She said she's taken little comfort from the truce or Trump's decision to back off from threats to destroy critical infrastructure and bridges from the president that culminated in a social media post saying, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, end quote. She fears the strikes have already done lasting damage to industries and infrastructure that helped the country weather decades of international sanctions. She said the 2-week truce is merely a quote-unquote pause. Tehran is a warmest, the most beautiful city in the world, in my opinion, but now its face is full of sadness, pain, end quote, Saidpour said via WhatsApp audio note. Well before the ceasefire, in a street near her own home, she said she saw rescue teams searching for survivors in the rubble of damaged residential buildings. A photo she posted on Instagram captured the aftermath of another strike days before the deal. Quote, the building's residents by chance weren't home that day. All the homes along the street had been destroyed because they'd hit a police station, unquote, she said. Jolted awake by quiet. More than 3,000 people have been killed in Iran during the war, according to Abbas Masyedi, a top medical official who spoke to the state-run Iran daily newspaper and did not give a breakdown for civilians versus soldiers in the figure. Iran's Red Crescent first responders say thousands of residential buildings were damaged. For several hours Tuesday, it appeared as if the war would intensify. Iranians stocked up on water or relocated after Trump's threats, and many passed a sleepless night until the truce was announced shortly before the deadline he'd imposed. A man in his late 20s who works in advertising said he jolted awake before dawn. When he didn't hear the thud of air defenses, he knew there had been a truce and went back to sleep with a laugh and a smile, quote unquote, he told the AP via audio note on Telegram, also on condition of anonymity. Divided but proud. Iranians are deeply divided over their government, and hundreds of thousands took to the streets in January before the mass protests were crushed. But they take pride, deep pride, not only in thousands of years of Persian civilization, but in the modern state that predates the 1979 Islamic Revolution, all of which appeared under threat from Trump. Tehran is ringed by snow-capped mountains, and its 19th century rulers built long, broad avenues lined with trees and water channels that still function today. Iran's oil wealth funded a construction boom before the revolution and the Iran-Iraq War. Now the scars of the latest war are everywhere. Our next feature in world news, Leo's ambitious trip to Africa poses some unique challenges, by Nicole Winfield, Associated Press. Vatican City. When Pope Leo pronounced himself a, quote, son of St. Augustine, end quote, the night of his election, some Algerians took that to mean his ancestors hailed from the North African country where the 5th century saint lived and died. Leo's line, of course, referred to his Augustinian spirituality. But his connection to the Algerian-born St. Augustine, the towering figure of Christianity who was known well to Algeria's Sunni Muslim majority, served, at the very least, to favorably introduce Leo to a country that will welcome him Monday for the first ever papal visit. Leo's 2-day stay kicks off an ambitious odyssey across Algeria, Angola, Cameroon, and Equatorial Guinea, and that is so dizzying in its logistical complexity that it recalls the globe-trotting journeys of St. Paul II in his early years. Leo, 70, who will cover about 11,000 miles in 18 flights over 11 days, and will deliver speeches and homilies in French, Spanish, Portuguese, and English. He's prioritizing a part of the world that is crucial for the continued growth of the Catholic Church, but poses unique challenges as well. The themes he'll raise run the gamut, including migration and the exploitation of natural and human resources in a region that produces much of the world's oil, but where significant proportions of the population live in poverty. The Vatican says Leo will also speak about corruption in oftentimes authoritarian regimes and the role of political leaders in countries where two of the presidents have been in power for decades. Huge crowds are expected in Cameroon, where 29% of the population is Catholic, and 600,000 people are due to attend one of Leo's masses. Leo will preside over a quote-unquote peace meeting in Cameroon's northwest city of Bamenda, which has been plagued by separatist violence. Quote, "To see His Holiness Pope Leo arrive in Cameroon, for us who are Catholic Christians, it further strengthens our faith. It further strengthens our ties with our God," end quote, said Simon Pierre Ngambo, a Catholic Cameroonian. Quote, "It is a perfect moment to touch each other's hearts," end quote. Peaceful coexistence. Algeria will give the American Pope a chance to promote peaceful coexistence between Christians and Muslims at a time of global tensions over the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran. No extra security measures are planned, the Vatican said. Leo, who has already positioned himself as an American counterweight to President Trump, will visit the Great Mosque in Algiers, and interfaith dialogue is expected to be raised, said the Archbishop of Algiers, Cardinal Jean-Paul Vesco. On Africa's northern coast, Algeria fought a brutal civil war in the 1990s that is known locally as the Black Decade, when some 250,000 people were killed as the army fought an Islamist insurgency. As recently as last year, Algeria was still addressing the wounds of its colonial legacy, with legislators voting to declare France's colonization of the North African country a crime and calling for restitution for property taken by France during its 130-year rule. The visit acts as a bridge between the Christian and Muslim worlds, while reflecting the richness of the country's history, Vesco told the official Algerian news agency APS. However, Algerian authorities turned down the Vatican's request for Leo to visit Medea, 30 miles south of Algiers, to pray at the Tibherine Monastery. It was there 7 French Trappist monks were kidnapped and killed May 21st, 1996 by Islamic fighters during the Civil War. Quote, "Algeria has no intention of reopening a painful chapter of its history," end quote. The government daily El Mujahid wrote in support of the government's decision. Leo is expected to refer to the sacrifice of the monks who were among 19 priests, nuns, and other Catholics killed during the war. They were beatified in 18 as martyrs for the faith in what was then the first such beatification ceremony in the Muslim world. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next feature is a national story. Artemis II's epic journey ends with a dramatic splashdown, by Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. Houston, Artemis II's astronauts closed out humanity's first lunar voyage in more than half a century with a Pacific splashdown on Friday, blazing new records near the moon with grace and joy. It was a dramatic grand finale to a mission that revealed not only swaths of the lunar far side never seen before by human eyes, but a total solar eclipse and a parade of planets, most notably our own shimmering Earth, against the endless black void of space. With their flight now complete, the 4 astronauts have set NASA up for a moon landing by another crew in just 2 years and a full-blown moon base within the decade. The triumphant moonfarers, Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Canada's Jeremy Hansen emerged from their bobbing capsule into the sunlight off the coast of San Diego. In a scene reminiscent of NASA's Apollo moonshots of yesteryear, military helicopters hoisted the astronauts one by one from an inflatable raft docked to the capsule, hauling them aboard for the short trip to the Navy's awaiting recovery ship, the USS John P. Murtha. Quote, "These were the ambassadors from humanity to the stars that we sent out right now, and I can't imagine a better crew," end quote, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman said from the recovery ship. NASA's mission control erupted in celebration, with hundreds pouring in from the back support rooms. Quote, "We did it," end quote. NASA's Lori Glaze rejoiced at a news conference. Quote, "Welcome to our moonshot." Their Orion capsule, dubbed Integrity, made the entire plunge on automatic pilot. The lunar cruiser hit the atmosphere traveling Mach 33, or 33 times the speed of sound, a blistering blur not seen since the 1960s and 1970s Apollo. The tension in mission control mounted as the capsule became engulfed in a red-hot plasma during peak heating and entered a planned communication blackout. All eyes were on the capsule's life-protecting heat shield that had to withstand thousands of degrees during re-entry. Watching the drama unfold nearly 2,000 miles away, the astronauts' families huddled in Mission Control's viewing room, cheering when the capsule emerged from its 6-minute blackout and again at splashdown. The last time NASA and the Defense Department teamed up for a lunar cruise re-entry was Apollo 17 in 1972. Artemis II came screaming back at 36,174 feet per second, or 24,664 miles per hour, just shy of the record before slowing to a 19 miles per hour splashdown. Until Artemis II, NASA's fresh from the moon homecomings starred only white male pilots. Intent on reflecting changes in society, NASA chose a diverse multinational crew for its lunar comeback. Cook became the first woman to fly to the moon. Glover, the first black astronaut, and Hansen, the first non-U.S. citizen, bursting Canada with pride. They laughed, cried, and hugged all the way there and back, striving to take the entire world with them. Record flyby and moon views. Launched from Florida on April 1st, the astronauts racked up one win after another as they deftly navigated NASA's long-awaited lunar comeback, the first major step in establishing a sustainable moon base. Artemis II didn't land on the moon or even orbit it, but it broke Apollo 13's distance record and marked the farthest that humans have ever journeyed from Earth when the crew reached 252,756 miles. Then, in the mission's most heart-tugging scene, the teary astronauts asked permission to name a pair of craters after their moonship and Weissman's late wife, Carol. During Monday's record-breaking flyby, they documented scenes of the moon's far side never seen before by the human eye, along with a total solar eclipse. The eclipse in particular just blew all of us away, Glover said. Their sense of wonder and love awed everyone, as did their breathtaking pictures of the moon and Earth. The Artemis II crew channeled Apollo 8's first lunar explorers with Earthsat showing a blue marble setting behind the gray moon. It was reminiscent of Apollo 8's famous Earthrise shot from 1968. Our second national story, allies withdraw support for Swalwell's gubernatorial national run by Tron Nguyen and Michael R. Blood, Associated Press, Sacramento, California. In a stunning political reversal, prominent supporters of Representative Eric Swalwell's campaign for California governor withdrew their support Friday after the congressman denied allegations that he sexually assaulted a woman twice, including when she worked for him. Swalwell did not immediately heed those calls, saying on social media that he would spend the weekend with family and friends and share an update, quote unquote, very soon. Quote, these allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They're absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened, and I will fight them with everything that I have, end quote, he said. Swalwell was among the leading Democrats in the race to replace outgoing Governor Gavin Newsom, but in just hours, he saw his most prominent supporters, including Senator Adam Schiff, and powerful labor unions drop their endorsements and call for his exit from the race. Newsom, a likely 2028 presidential candidate who has avoided engaging in the contest to replace him, said in a statement, quote, as we continue to learn more, these allegations from multiple sources are deeply troubling and must be taken seriously, end quote. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who hasn't endorsed in the race, said the, quote, serious allegations must be investigated, and that she spoke to Swalwell and suggested that be done, quote, outside of a gubernatorial campaign, end quote. The allegations surfaced at a critical stage of the wide-open campaign to lead the nation's most populous state. Voters will receive mail ballots next month in advance of the June 2nd election. The San Francisco Chronicle reported Friday that a woman said Swalwell sexually assaulted her in 2019 and 2024. The newspaper reviewed text messages about the alleged 2024 assault and spoke to people whom she had told about it. She told the newspaper she did not go to police because she was afraid she would not be believed. The woman worked for Swalwell in 2019 when the first alleged assault occurred. In 2024, assault allegedly occurred after a charity gala, the newspaper reported. She said in both cases she was too intoxicated to consent to sex. The paper didn't name the woman, and the Associated Press has not been able to independently verify her account and identity. Her lawyer declined to comment. Swift backlash. Schiff said in a social media post he's, quote, deeply distressed, end quote, by the allegations, calling for Swalwell to end his gubernatorial bid. Democratic Representative Jimmy Gomez, who helped run Swalwell's campaign, said he's immediately ending his role. Quote, the congressman should leave the race now so there can be full accountability without doubt, distraction, or delay, end quote, Gomez said on social media. Powerful labor unions, including the California Service Employees International Union and the California Teachers Association, said they're suspending their support. The California Federation of Labor Unions said it's, quote, acting urgently, end quote, on next steps. A spokesperson for House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said the allegations require a, quote, serious and thorough investigation, end quote. Calls to drop out. Swalwell is among a handful of prominent candidates in the crowded race to succeed Newsom, and he immediately came under pressure from all the other Democratic rivals to withdraw from the race. The party has been mired in a messy primary season with some leaders fearing the crowded field could cost them spot in the November general election. The state's top two primary system sends the two highest vote getters onto the general election regardless of party. Uncorroborated and non-specific rumors that Swalwell behaved inappropriately with female staffers have circulated on social media for weeks, but the Chronicle story is the first reported account of someone making direct accusation. CNN also reported that several women accused Swalwell of sending them inappropriate sexual messages. He suggested the allegations were part of an attack due to his campaign's momentum. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next feature is in business, startups. Former bill will help highlight local success stories. A well-known former Buffalo Bills player will draft startup companies during an event later this month highlighting local tech companies that are raising money, hiring in Western New York, and scaling their products across the U.S. Eric Wood, the retired Bills center, who currently serves as the team's radio analyst, will take the stage to lead an event that is part of Buffalo Startup Week on April 23rd, the same day as the first round of the NFL Draft. The inaugural Buffalo Startup Draft will be hosted by Series B, a new media and marketing platform created by the 43 North Foundation at Seneca One Tower. It will include a keynote address by Wood and an after-party at Other Half Brewing. Companies that qualify to be recognized by being quote-unquote drafted must be scalable startup companies that have hit at least one benchmark in 2025, including gaining more than $1 million in growth capital, surpassing $1 million in annual revenue for the first time, or creating 10 new locally based jobs. Startups can be suggested via email to dminer@43northfoundation.org. The event is free, but registration is suggested at buffalo.edu/startupweek. Buffalo Startup Week will include a variety of programming, including founder-focused workshops, investor conversations, student innovation events, and opportunities to connect with the region's growing network of entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders. Buffalo startup Exostellar acquired. An AI-powered cloud optimization technology startup founded in 2018 and built in Buffalo and Ithaca has been acquired. Exostellar, which grew with early support from venture development organization Launch New York, including seed stage investment and mentorship, has become the latest regional startup to scale globally and exit. It has been acquired by tech giant Qualcomm, a leader in intelligent computing and connectivity solutions. Qualcomm will integrate Exostellar's technology into its broader portfolio to further enhance enterprise and industry solutions. Founded in April 2018 as Exotanium, Exostellar has expanded its reach in cloud optimization through its virtualization and AI-powered live migration technology that was enhanced with work in Western New York. Its platform enables enterprises to optimize workload allocation and resource utilization across cloud environments in real time, delivering up to 80% cost savings in cloud operations. The acquisition marks Launch New York's fourth portfolio company exit in 4 years. Other Launch New York portfolio company acquisitions include Patient Pattern in 2023, Demian in 2024, and Veravend in 2025. Quote, after spawning the business out of my role as Cornell faculty member, then expanding my management team to Buffalo, my mission has always been to fundamentally improve how cloud resources are utilized, end quote. Exostellar co-founder Hakeem Weatherspoon said in a statement. Weatherspoon and co-founders Robert Van Rennes and Zimin Shen were first-time founders. Quote, Launch New York's early belief in our vision was critical in helping us build and scale to be attractive to a company of the caliber of Qualcomm, he added. Panacea competition down to 6 finalists. 6 teams have been chosen to compete in the final round of the 26th annual Henry A. Panacea Jr. Technology Entrepreneurship competition on April 16th at the University at Buffalo Center for the Arts. They include AARM Technologies, EcoWell Health, Great Lakes Dried Fruit, Lasco Rocketry, Recycle Vision AI, and Schubert Medical Solutions. They have been selected from 53 first-round applications and then 13 semifinalists. Each of the 5 Each of the finalist teams will present 5-minute pitches, 43 North style, to a panel of judges and other viewers and will be evaluated on how well they describe the feasibility and marketability of their venture, prove the need for their product or service, and present potential sources of capital. Our second business feature is in manufacturing. Moog Products supplied a lift to Artemis II mission. When Artemis II blasted off, Moog Incorporated wasn't just along for the ride. The company helped steer. The Elma-based motion control equipment maker supplied products for NASA's mission to send 4 astronauts on a trip around the moon. The project continued Moog's long-standing support of spaceflight programs. Moog's connection to Artemis II consisted of thrust vector control systems, which guided and steered the Space Launch System rocket during ascent. Quote, "When you see the engines moving right before liftoff, that is our thrust vector control engine actuation in action," end quote, said Aaron Astrachan, a Moog spokesperson. Launch abort system actuators, which are designed to quickly pull the crew capsule to safety in case of an emergency during liftoff. That was the second thing. Third, fluid control and actuation technologies supporting propulsion, stabilization, and power distribution across multiple subsystems. And the last thing is mobile launch pad actuators, which retract access walkways and unbiblical connections at liftoff. Quote, "This successful launch underscores the reliability and precision our teams bring to every system, whether we're protecting astronauts, guiding the rocket, or supporting mission-critical ground operations," end quote, said Nicole Wadka Cook, Moog General Manager. When Artemis II blasted off, Moog showed the broadcast on TVs at its facility so that second shift employees could watch. A small group of Moog employees traveled to Florida to see the launch in person. Some other Western New York manufacturers also supplied the Artemis II mission. Tailored Devices said it provided isolators that protected the crew capsule from the harsh shock and vibration that occurs during launch. The company said several energy absorbers similar to those used during the Space Shuttle program were used for systems on the launch pad. Eaton Corp, which brought Carlton Technologies several years ago and has maintained its long-standing ties to the space program, also had a hand in the launch. Quote, "The systems and components manufactured in Orchard Park, New York, have played a pivotal role in supporting crewed lunar missions, efforts that inspire the next generation of explorers and scientists," end quote, said Maria Morales, Business Development Manager for Eaton Space Propulsion Mission Systems Division. Our next feature is the obituaries. Beeler, Ann B., nee Underwood, March 4th, 1935 to April 5th, 2026. Blasio, Ralph, April 8th, 1927 to April 5th, 2026. Marilyn L. Cassell, January 3rd, 1936, April 5th, 2026. Connors Doris Marie Nee Jordan, October 25th, 1947 to March 31st, 2026. Costanzo Susan M. Nee Diem, April 10th, 2026. Sawinski Christine E., April 14th, 2025. Oh, this was a remembrance. Kazmarzik Edward I. Kaz, remembrance. Biondo Michael A. Mickey, April 3rd, 2026. Albano Nancy J., April 6th, 2026. Brown Gloria R., April 5th, 2026. Banis Craig S., April 9th, 2026. Cryan Mary Ann, April 7th, 2026. Curley Dennis Patrick, Pat, March 23rd, 2026. Dylan Kenneth P., April 4th, 2026. Dragon Carrie C. Ni Giglia, April 7th, 2026. Foster Philip M., April 3rd, 2026. Giambra Michael A., March 28th, 2026. Domzalski Kenneth J., March 30th, 2026. Duke Rosemarie Nee Villardo, April 5th, 2026. Franz Lawrence Werner, PhD, April 5th. Goldstone Cheryl, December 15th, 2025. It's a remembrance. Griffin Elaine, April 6th, 2026. Dungan Rieger, Patricia E. Nee Simpson, April 9th, 2026. Gallagher Timothy P., April 2nd, 2026. Hamil Anthony P. Tony, April 4th, 2026. Gerhardt Thomas, January 16th, 1954 to March 28th, 2026. Jean C. Bartlow, March 18th, 2026. Hannon Terrence Terry, March 25th, 2026. Horwath Laura, February 15th, 2026. Jablonnicki Joan C. Nee Faltisco, April 9th, 2026. Sonia Klein, March 31st, 2026. And she was a Holocaust survivor and was 100 years old. Klinger Stephen C. Pops, March 8th, 2026. Klubeck Thomas J., November 28th, 2025, remembrance. Hassan Fratz, Donna M. Nee Pusateri, April 3rd, 2026. Marcia Hutt Nee Matthews, December 28th, 2025. Johnson Virtrell, April 1st, 2026. K. Gregory J. Klosterman Rita Nee Bujalski, April 2nd, 2026. Zulist Faye M. Nee Beck, April 10th. Takeman Carmela Dolly, April 8th. Trailer Sherry L. Nee Gase, April 9th. Ward Josephine Joy, March 24th. Zephyr Kathleen Nee Ola, OLAH, April 4th, 2026. And Zimmerman Verna, March 31st, 2026. Our next feature is the horoscopes. Happy birthday for Sunday, April 12th, 2026. You believe in working for the greatest good. You are progressive, idealistic, and driven. This year you will reap the benefits of all your hard work, exact power and leadership. Seize opportunities in business. The stars show the kind of day you'll have. 5 dynamic, 4 positive, 3 average, 2 so-so, 1 difficult. Aries, March 21st, April 19th. This is a tricky day. You feel friendly to others, even concerned. However, today Mars is lined up with Neptune, which can make you confused. Tonight, friendships. Taurus, do as little as possible today. Questionable behavior patterns and habits from when you were younger might surface, and they will not serve your best interest. Tonight, you're noticed. Gemini, if you're involved with a group today or active with a friend, you might feel obligated to do something. Perhaps you want to save the day. Tonight, explore. Cancer, today is a good time to heed the advice not to trifle in the affairs of dragons, for you are crunchy and taste good with ketchup. Tonight, check your finances. Leo, news in the media or someone is preaching from their soapbox today might confuse you because it is actually misleading. Tonight, cooperate. Virgo, postpone important financial decisions as well as banking matters, inheritances, and wills for another day because your financial decisions are questionable. Tonight, work. Libra, it might be frustrating when dealing with close friends, spouses, and partners today. You're not sure what to expect from them, and, ironically, they're not sure what they're doing. Tonight, socialize. Scorpio. Be careful about trying to self-medicate yourself about anything today, because confusion related to drugs and even food is likely. Tonight, cocoon. Sagittarius. Although this is a confusing day for many people, you might channel some of this energy into creative, artistic projects. Tonight, conversations. Capricorn. Today you might help a family member. However, in doing so, you might be off base and create more harm than good. Tonight, maintain your belongings. Aquarius. There is an element of confusion today, which might make you think you are helping someone when in fact you're not. Tonight, you're strong. Pisces. You want to make the world a better place. You help charities and volunteer when you can. Tonight, privacy. You're listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Sunday, April 12th, on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. We'll return for more readings after this short break.
articles from today's Buffalo News. Your reader is Ron Bickelman. In local news, city leaders eye help for people hurt by tax hike. When Mayor Sean Ryan planned a 25% tax levy increase, became one question came to the front of many civil lawmakers' minds. In a city with persistent and stubbornly high rates of poverty, what would be done to protect people living in the economic margins? Ryan, who championed affordability and housing causes throughout his 14-year career in the state legislature prior to becoming mayor, has repeatedly said the large structural deficit caused by years of flat taxes and increasing costs now makes significant tax increases necessary to bring the city's books in balance and to fix the many capital needs that have long been neglected. And he has said his administration is looking for efficiencies and searching for outside funding sources to lessen the blow. We're going to do everything we can to minimize the burden on taxpayers, Ryan said in a recent social media post. Over $100 million deficit that can't be cured with taxes. While the council members say they recognize the difficult situation, the potentially ruinous results of such significant tax increases for people living paycheck to paycheck cannot be ignored. County Council Majority Leader Lee Halton Pope has been one of the most vocal leaders on the issue, pushing for programs like a tax circuit breaker, a program that would cap the amount of property taxes a property owner can be billed as a percentage of their income, to make sure that people are not pushed out of their homes by the coming tax hikes. We want to be responsible because you don't want to put the burden on one population so heavily over another, Halton Pope said. Several lawmakers and administration officials say existing programs could ensure that people on fixed incomes will be able to absorb the tax increases without falling in your ears on their taxes, something that could result in foreclosure. In particular, many pointed to the state's STAR tax credit programs, which can significantly reduce tax bills for those who qualify. Deputy Mayor Benjamin Swanekamp said that making sure eligible taxpayers are enrolled in available programs is a priority for the administration. Under the law, the state will be auto-enrolling eligible Enhanced STAR recipients into the program based on their tax returns. Our proposed levy increase will have very minimal impact for those folks, with that going on a sliding scale up there, Swanekamp said. Still, those programs do not protect everyone at risk, said Bakrashia Sams, a senior analyst at the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy, a national tax policy think tank. It's not available to young homeowners who are struggling. It's not available to middle-aged homeowners who are struggling, Sam said. And so it's not really the comprehensive of a program because it's not just impacting seniors. When the administration held its public hearing on limiting tax increase required under the state's 2% tax cap, Sarah Wooten of Partnership for Public Good urged the administration to look in best practices from other cities to offer more avenues of relief. Well, Wooten said she is encouraged by the interest of council members, administration officials in putting protections in place. I think there was some momentum there last year, Wooten said, if Halton Pope pushed to implement a circuit breaker. I think it's important to keep pushing now, whether or not it can be implemented in a time of this current year's tax bill. She and Sams pointed to several programs already in place across the country that could work in Buffalo. Circuit breaker programs are in place in Hialeah, Florida, and in Illinois. In Philadelphia, lawmakers agreed to freeze tax bills for low-income property owners at 2024 rates, and in Maryland, program exists for tax debt relief for people who qualify. Wooten said her organization has looked into ways to limit the percentage which a landlord can increase rent over a single year, considering factors like renovations or tax increases. Increased taxes are often passed on to renters by landlords in the form of rising rents, which could also push people out of their homes. Sams also raised the possibility of increasing tax rates marginally on the highest assessed properties in the city to bring in more revenue. I think it's options like that you can do instead of just relying on increasing property taxes on the backs of people on fixed incomes and renters. Moving forward, Swan Camp said the administration remains open to new options for protections, but said it may be difficult to get them in place before this year's tax increases go into effect, as many such options would likely require approval of state legislature, which ends its session in June. Ryan, in fact, sponsored a circuit breaker bill as a state senator that never gained momentum in an effort that could be reviewed in the future. Swankamp said officials are looking into models to collect tax bills on a monthly basis, an idea first introduced by Halton Pope. Wooten said her organization understands the needs to raise revenue after years of flat taxes and rising costs, but it's important to put protections in place to prevent people from losing their home or apartment results cause of negative effects going beyond harming the individual people. Being forced out of a home makes a person more likely to suffer from mental health issues, more likely to lose a job, and tears the fabric of community she added. We need our streets to be plowed, our fires to be put out, Wooten said, but we also need to keep our lowest income residents in their homes because being forced moves like foreclosures and evictions, they cause really deep harm to both residents and the neighborhoods. Head of State's nuclear initiative sees rising interest. Todd Justifovsky, who is spearheading the state's nuclear initiative, thinks nuclear power is an important part of New York's push to reduce climate-changing emissions and meet the rising demands for electricity. Nuclear power is so important as far as a firm baseload carbon-free energy, said Justifovsky, Senior Vice President of Nuclear Energy Development for New York Power Authority. Governor Kathy Hochul in June called for an advanced nuclear power facility to be built in upstate New York with a capacity of 1 gigawatt of electricity. Josefovsky began his role with the Power Authority in January. He brings a wealth of experience in the industry and a previous job with the Ontario Power Generation. Josefovsky helped lead the refurbishment of the Darlington Nuclear Generating Station along with North Shore of Lake Ontario. The project extended the life of Site 4 reactors by about 30 years. It was really a great thing for the nuclear industry to show and prove that you can effectively focus on managing projects on time and on budget with the right steps and the right team in place and the right approach by the company and management, Josefovsky said. Now that plant's providing reliable, emission-free nuclear power to the Ontario for many more years. Josefovsky said the opportunity presented by the Power Authority appealed to him. It's the first nuclear development program in more than 50 years in New York State, so that in itself is exciting, he said. Josefovsky said the upstate project remains in its early stages. He's recruiting other team members to lead the initiative and reviewing responses to the Power Authority's request for interest from companies that want to build the project and communities that want to host it. 8 communities responded by the deadline. Dunkirk was the only one from Western New York, chosen from Western New York. Josefovsky said the Power Authority's Board of Trustees that the additional communities have since reached out. The Power Authority declined to identify those other communities. The planning also involves determining which type of nuclear technology is best suited for the project, Josefovsky said. New technology has opened the door to smaller company capacity nuclear plants. Josefovsky said he has seen public attitudes towards nuclear power shift over time. Some of the historical barriers to a nuclear power development have started to come down, he said. The federal government is pushing for additional nuclear capacity. Federal regulators are looking for ways to continue to streamline licensing and renewal. More capital is flowing into projects from new entrants. Josefovsky mentioned interest in hyperscalers, including data centers and manufacturers. Continuing along now, Blakesman's claims on safest county requires context. Nassau had that designation before he took office. Bruce Blakeman, a Long Island Republican running for governor, said his actions in Nassau County executive have made Nassau County the safest county in America. In a recent Instagram post, Blakeman wrote, "As Nassau County executive, I hired 600 new law enforcement officers and made Nassau County the safest county in America." His website said he turned Nassau County into the safest county in America. Blakeman has touted what he calls his no-nonsense approach to fighting crime in his gubernatorial campaign to unseat Governor Kathy Hochul. Blakeman, who defeated Democratic incumbent Laura Kern in 2021 for county executive and assumed office in 2022, bases his safest county claim on U.S. News and World Report designation. The media outlet periodically publishes a list of ranking counties on crime, injuries, and public safety capacity. Nassau County, home to 1.4 million people, was named the safest county in 2024 and 2022 during his tenure. But it also named the safest county under Curran was the safest county under Curran in 2020 and 2021. We checked Blakeman's claim that he hired 600 new law enforcement officers. Blakeman's spokesperson provided PolitiFact with a list of 638 new hires across 7 job titles during Blakeman's tenure in police, corrections, probations, and fire departments. They include 396 police officers, 178 corrections officers, 16 deputy sheriffs, 24 fire marshals and marshal trainees, and 24 probation officers and trainees. When asked whether the new employees replaced retirees, we did not receive a response. Nassau County Controller keeps records of each position filled through 2025. Between 2020 and 2021 and 2025, records show increases in total department employment in police, 111 positions, fire, 40 positions, corrections, 110 positions, probation, 34 positions, and a total of 295 new positions. From 2022, Blakeman's first year, to 2025, there's a loss of 396 positions in the police department and a loss of 5 positions in corrections. There is no evidence of 600 new law enforcement officers. The number of jobs in some categories went up but fell in others according to the data, which does not include hires in 2026. Number of police officers decreased overall. There were 1937 police officers in 2021. Number increased from 2193 in 2022 but fell to 1932 in 2025. Number of police detectives and sergeants increased by 5 and 15 respectively from 2021, but the number of police lieutenants and sergeant detectives decreased by 19 and 6 respectively. There were 34 more corrections officers and 26 more corrections corporals. There were also 11 more deputy sheriffs in 2025 than in 2021. To give claim context, we looked at crime statistics in Nassau County. There are 7 index crimes: murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft. The rate of index crimes increased by 28% from 2021, just before Blakeman took office, to 2024, according to the most reliable data available. Our ruling: if Blakeman said he kept Nassau County the safest county in America, and that he hired 638 additional new enforcement officers, the ruling would be favorable toward him. But that is not what he said as he presses his case on the campaign trail. His office claimed 638 new hires in public safety, but many appeared to be filling positions of people who left or retired. And the county employs fewer police officers than when he took office, according to 2025 data. Indeed, Nassau County earned the safest county designation under Blakeman's watch, but Nassau County had that designation in the 2 years before he took office, so his predecessor had those bragging rights too. His statement claims an element of truth, but ignores the critical facts that would give a different impression, so we rate him as mostly false. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News on Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 14 minutes after the hour. The state sale looks back as an artist looks ahead. Case Syracuse offered a chance to step inside a life in art. Artist Carol Case Syracuse ignored all the standard advice that after she lost her husband of 25 years, teacher and designer Thomas Palamuso, to esophageal cancer. She didn't wait to let things settle down before making major changes in her life. Within months, the house the two had lovingly renovated was up for sale. Case Syracuse found a Delaware Avenue condo that suited her and proceeded to downsize, shedding the belongings of a life spent work traveling and collecting and creating beauty. Much of this beauty is the form of watercolor paintings by Case Syracuse, who took up painting after decades spent as an architect. The downsizing took place this weekend in the estate sale at her former home at 39 Granger Place. But it's not your standard home liquidation event. I have to admit that the estate sales in any kind have long fascinated me. These days, they are announced on Facebook as well as through the standard listings and that is obsessively enjoyable time suck to scroll through as many as 200 photos of what is an offer. A typical sale, the choice items are usually in living rooms and dining room portions of the sale where the artwork, furniture, antique, or otherwise fine china and crystal are likely to be displayed. Eventually, you get to the back pantry where the arguably less desirable scrub brushes, bottles of spray cleaner, and unused packages of sponges are offer much lower price points. In between, there are piles of bedding, racks of shoes, mixing bowls, casserole dishes, books, costume jewelry, more books, old collectibles, toys, lamps, sporting equipment, and more books. Thousands of items in these sales tell fascinating stories that reveal quite a bit about the people who used to own them. It's becoming quickly apparent that they were either devoutly religious former English majors or gourmet cooks who like to make complicated food. Collections of sports cards, vintage promotional items, teapots, and various items of figurines speak different obsessions. In these sales, everything, even intimate hygiene products you would think of would be given away, has a price tag on it. In some of these sales, home, office, or kitchen bulletin boards are left in place, covered in messages that probably nobody needs to read anymore. The Facebook announcement for Case Syracuse was not accompanied by multiple images, but it did have words. This is not a traditional estate sale. It is a chance to step inside a life in art. It's not a traditional sale. Chase Syracuse recalls that a friend told her to contact Emily Tucker, co-founder of Art Resource, a local nonprofit art endeavor. Tucker, who grew up in a family of art dealers, has years of experience in fine art field and is currently running 2 galleries and a series of pop-up events. In addition to consulting, she knows how to help people process their art collections. My thought was I have to have an art sale, Case Syracuse says. It's become really clear that I couldn't take all this stuff with me. It's a 2-bedroom condo, so I said I was going to downsize a lot. After Tom died in October, I started gleaning through things in late December. Well, Chase Syracuse's sale doesn't have near the miscellany of average liquidation event. There is more than just art. Tucker called in a friend, Kristen Horn, a former antique dealer who did some consulting to help with Case Syracuse's other collections, which include a wide range of pottery and glassware as well as some interesting furniture. I had to speak and peek and can attest that it won't be difficult for people who find items like that they like. Case Syracuse watercolors are lovely, ethereal, mainly of recognizable subject, and especially when buildings are involved, demonstrate her training as an architect, as she had pursued in Chautauqua County, where she headed her own firm later in Buffalo. While employed at Canon Design, Case Syracuse worked on Buffalo Public School System's joint school reconstruction project and helped design Buffalo Academy of Visual and Performing Arts, among other many major commissions. She retired in 2010 after 38 years of practice, having previously studied with Michael Greaves and Walter Gropius. Case Syracuse didn't start painting until 2001 after moving to Buffalo and started with classes in Buffalo Art School and very quickly outgrew. Her specialty has mostly been watercolor with some penanding. She has been active in exhibitions and served as president of the Niagara Frontier Watercolor Society and is amused to think that at 83, she's still the webmaster and social media maven. Other artists featured in the sale include Jackie Felix, Annie Hoover, David Buck, Case Syracuse's daughter, Cindy Gage Sullivan. There's also precise, delicate work of Case Sullivan's mother, the late Elizabeth Compton Case of Rochester, who studied at Buffalo's Albright School, and Charles Birchfield. There are 300 paintings on sale, as well as hundreds of other objects. It took Syracuse another month to sift through everything. She ended up keeping about 50 paintings to take with her to the condo. It was a big job, she says, but it was part of me enjoyed it. It's also resolutely a positive attitude that impresses most. Case Syracuse is already celebrating her walks with her golden retriever, Bessie, around her neighborhood, posting early morning messages on Facebook just as we celebrated the trips she took to Vietnam, Austria, Italy, and Key West, and with Palamuso. She had 2 or 3 wonderful lives already and is embarking on the next with determination and aplomb. She plans on painting her new studio and work that was paused as she attended Palamuso during his final illness. Case Syracuse sale may be happening after a sad event, but it's not a sad sale. Just the announcement said, it's a step inside the life and art as the artist steps forward. It's a lesson in how we have an estate sale that's not just about stuff. Continuing along now, how a 1985 rock classic became an anthem for the Sabres of today. A generation that grew up watching music videos on family television can't help but drift back to the 80s when the song Money for Nothing by the Dire Straits came on. That immediately recognizable falsetto voice, an equally unrecognizable guitar riff, and some of the most famous lyrics penned during the rock era. We got to install microwave ovens, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. So how exactly did a song that became famous the same year as Mickey DLT became a walkout song for the Buffalo Sabres 41 years after its release? The credit goes to 2 players who were more likely to watch Jersey Shore and music videos on TV, Josh Stone and Tage Thompson. We went through about 10 to 15 songs, and that was a song we picked that no one was using, Stone said. It's hard because there's 31 teams, and we have walkout songs across the league. We didn't want to take somebody else's or take a college song. We just found something that no one else was using and went with it. You're more likely to find song on vinyl than you are to find it on a local radio station, but Money for Nothing in the mid-80s hit has become the Sabres anthem, and players step into the ice moments before the start of a home game. I'm a fan of it, defenseman Connor Simmons said. I've used to that song for I used that song for karaoke a few times. When I heard it, I really didn't think of it as a walkout song, but I really think it's caught on, and people seem to like it. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was surprised when he heard the Dire Straits song, which replaced the tragically Hips gift shop after the goalie returned from rehabilitating a lower body injury suffered January 27th in a 7-4 win at Toronto. He's a fan of the song and a fan of classic rock. Older rock and roll, that's what I grew up with, Luukkonen said. I'm lucky that my parents, that what they listened to I was brought up with. And I don't think there's any song better to come onto the ice than the Dire Straits. Money for Nothing is a song everybody knows. I think songs like that are kind of like making a run again. Money for Nothing was released June of '85, little more than 2 months after the end of Lindy Ruff's 6th season as defenseman with the Buffalo Sabres. The song is written from the perspective of an appliance store employees and their disdain for celebrity culture, including proliferation of MTV at the time. It features a familiar statement in the opening strains that was almost omnipresent in that era. I want my MTV as a demand by Sting, the one-time lead singer of Police, and one of the many musicians who benefited from the exposure of the channel that pioneered the popularity of music videos in the United States. The beginning of the song, Stone said, piqued his interest, and the adrenaline. The slow drone of synthesizers, Sting's repeated soulful, I want my MTV, and the electronic beat of drums in crescendo into Mark Knopfler's opening guitar riff. Seconds later, the Sabres step single file onto the ice, and there's a final warm-up laps in the opening verses of the song play in the final seconds before the national anthem. The kind of music our group listens to pregame. It's the kind of group we listen to on pregame, so it matches the flow of what we come onto the ice and don't said. NFL arenas have walkout songs or a medley for the moments when the team skates onto the ice before a game. It isn't just a walkout, it's a light show. It's an introduction to a pep rally rolled into a matter of minutes. It just helps get the players into the final adrenaline rush in those seconds between the final pregame speech and the drop of the puck. The Edmonton Oilers take a cue from the New York Yankees closer Mariano Rivera and step on the ice with Metallica's Enter Sandman. St. Louis Blues take the garage band theme Step on the Ice to Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart. On the other night, Vancouver Canucks wear the throwback black yellow and red uniforms, they play Back in Black by AC/DC. Colorado Avalanche take the ice in Ball Arena in Denver to a 90s rap favorite, Coolio's Gangsta Paradise. New York Rangers walk on to the Who's Bob O'Reilly at Madison Square Garden. The best walkout in the NHL from a stroll pole in the Sabres locker room. The Montreal Canadiens take the ice to Coldplay's Fix You, which in a cavernous facility like Bell Center resonates like a church organ, which is drowned out only by screams of a sellout crowd each time the Canadiens reach the ice. Everybody always talks about that set, but I feel like Montreal, they can play anything they want. It would be pretty sick, Luukkonen said. The atmosphere is unreal. Now the Sabres are in the playoffs the first time since the spring of 2011. They're creating their own atmosphere with the help of a 41-year-old too. Now let's look at Asking Eric. Dying friend refuses contact from longtime close friends. Dear Eric, 3 of us attended high school together and I remain close friends for many decades. And we remained close friends for many decades, and even though we sometimes lived quite far apart from each other. A few years ago, Beth had some medical problems that were exacerbated by COVID, and she had to retire unexpectedly from a fulfilling job. She fell into deep depression and withdrew from us. She kept in touch with her family, who updated us with her ups and downs, and they let us know that it wasn't just us. She isolated herself from everyone, some of her own family. She tried therapy and antidepressants, but nothing seemed to work. We sent gift cards of encouragement, emails, texts. Nothing has been acknowledged for at least a couple of years. Our last phone calls were over the last 4 years. Her grown son Michael has just let us know that Beth has terminal illness. He has been wonderful about keeping us informed about her condition, but it's dissuading us from contacting his mother, who remained firm in her desire to remain isolated from friends. Do we remain silent or reach out? So far, we're just taking cues from Michael. 2 left behind. Dear Left Behind, my heart aches for Beth and for you. What a terrible situation to be around. I think you're going to need to express your goodbye one way or another. Even if you don't express it directly to Beth, per her request, start with a letter. You're grieving and those feelings need somewhere to go. Write her a letter telling her what she's meant to you, redirecting on the memories you shared and expressing what you're feeling now. You may find that the act of writing alone meets the need that you have. But if you're still wishing for another way to say goodbye, reach out to Michael and ask if he simply will receive the letter for you. He can honor his mother's wishes by not sharing it with her, but there still could be something healing in simply making a gesture. You might let Michael know that if he ever wants a fond remembrance of his mother, he is just free to read them. This goodbye could help his grief as well as down the road. Dear Eric, I've never written to a columnist before, but felt compelled to put in my own 2 cents about the letter from ignored friend. The letter writer resented one of her friend's teenage sons was uncommunicative, seemingly rude, and wore headphones at joint family dinners. I have a son who sounds like the young lad in the column. He was shy and wore headphones a lot, listening to music and books. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 35, and psychosis is part of the disease. He talked about doing all he could to cancel out the voices and noise in his head. As a mother, I knew other people thought he was rude, and I was criticizing for allowing what they thought was rude behavior. Quite the opposite. A kinder, more compassionate person you'll never meet. The letter writer had no idea the stress and concern parents feel for a child who may be experiencing a difficult time in his life. If this bothers the letter writer so much, I suggest just staying home. Kindness was out every single time. Keeping kind. Dear Keeping, thank you for the perspective. Your point is such a valuable one. We never really know what someone else is experiencing. By sharing it, I don't mean to suggest. I don't think you mean to suggest a possible medical diagnosis for the person in the letter. As an aside, often responses will come in that do attempt to diagnose a medical condition or recently based on a brief description of a problem in a letter. Sometimes these responses will come from actual doctors. And almost always, if there's one diagnosis, there's another response with a completely opposite, equally confident diagnosis. It's my policy not to share those opinions. Medical advice should come from a professional who can follow up questions, and evaluate directly. Empathy is missing from many interactions, but I think it's what lies at the heart of the wonderful advice that you're offering in this reply. Empathy can change our perspective, diffuse conflicts, and transform our relationships. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from today's Buffalo News. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. Now let's take a look at sports. NFL draft position preview. How high can running back Jeremiah Lowe go? University of Notre Dame was truly blessed this year when it came to its running back room. The Irish boasted Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. The two combined for 2,046 yards and 29 touchdowns on the ground. Love got the bulk of the work and Price providing a steady backup. The two are close. They were roommates for Notre Dame games and again at the NFL Combine. There, Love had high praise for his teammates. Very valuable, Love said of Price at the Combine. JD has the opportunity and potential to be one of the best running backs in the league, as long as he goes into a humble mind and a hunger to work and just compete. You know, JD, the sky's the limit for JD. But there are limits for any running back making the jump to the NFL after the draft showcases that the position has been devalued in many ways over the recent years. A premier back like Love will still go early, but after that it could be a bit down between back names, even with a versatile class. Overall position ranking, 6 of 10. Bills view. The sneaky need here is actually a fullback. The Bills let Reggie Gilliam walk to the New England Patriots, no less, but head coach Joe Brady could potentially want a fullback option in the mix. As far as running backs, James Cook proved his contract extension more than worth it last season, winning the league's rushing title. Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and Frank Gore Jr. remain on the roster. Perfect carryover of last year's running back room, but the league's career span of running backs is short. It behooves the team to keep the future in mind. Bills need and ranking, 4 of 10. The best, Love, a Heisman Trophy finalist and the 2005 Doak Award winner given to the nation's top running back. Love is electric and explosive. Did not fumble once in 3 years at Notre Dame per PFF, and he just had one drop last season. Names to know: Price, Mike Washington Jr., Jonah Coleman. Price may take a hit for playing second fiddle to Love in 4 seasons at Notre Dame. He never started, with Love getting things going for the Irish, but Price has contributed to the group. His career punt return touchdowns could help him get a start on special teams. Washington is a New York native who spent first 3 seasons of his college career at the University of Buffalo, but there he faced constant changes at both head coach and position coach. He then spent a year at New Mexico State before rounding out school at Arkansas. The Ringer's NFL Draft Guide compares Washington to back Latavius Murray, who spent the twilight of his career with the Bills. Washington is big and can be punishing and has been named to the second All-SEC team in 2025. With 2 seasons at Arizona and 2 at Washington, Coleman saw his numbers of rushing touchdowns increase every season from 4 to 5 and from 10 to 15. Intriguing, Kalen Black, like the Notre Dame duo, Indiana split the backfield between Black and fellow running back Roman Hemby. Black still eclipsed the 1,000-yard rushing mark and has 10 touchdowns on the ground to help bolster Indiana's spectacular season. Even after the long season punctuated by a national title, Black attended the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, where he stood out. Sleeper Rashul Hassan. Hassan is 26 years old, which could be a concern at any position, but especially at running back. He was enrolled at 5 different schools throughout his college career, but still has limited tape. His most productive season was in 2024 at Utah State, where he had 1,109 yards and 8 touchdowns in 198 carries. By going to the net, Zach Benson has been on an offensive rush for the Sabres. Zach Benson always had that hilariously absurd opponent's skin quality to him. But let's not forget, he had 36 goals and 98 points in his last season in junior hockey 3 years ago in Winnipeg. That kind of skill is coming out more and more in the NHL. Benson has career highs for goals, 12, and points, 40. And he's on quite a run for the Buffalo Sabres for the last 12 games. Over the span of a dozen outings, the 20-year-old has 5 goals, 11 points, and 22 shots on goal. You want secondary scoring for the playoffs. Folks know that Josh Doan is up to 25 goals. Peyton Krebs has been flashing a hot stick on the top line, but Benson is chipping in hugely as well on the line with Doan and Josh Norris. He's been around the net. Hockey folks like to call him the dirty areas. Benson's there. He's one of the favorite players. It's always been his favorite player has been Sidney Crosby, where number 87 made a living for 20 years. It's just a habit of mine, Benson said after practice in Harbor Center. Just watching a lot of hockey, my favorite players were the guys who drove to the net. I think it's just picking up on what your goals are, where your goals are scored, and whether you get or create the chaos for a teammate to get it. The line has a little bit of chemistry. It's been going good together, said Coach Lindy Ruff. A lot of plays have been inside the dots. It isn't rush plays. It's been from below the goal line, stuff coming off the goal line. We harp a lot on trying to get the backside of a goaltender. I think he's gotten rewarded for getting there. Benson got quite a reward Wednesday in New York when he potted an empty net goal off a Doan assist. When they broke on a 2-0 break, Doan made a supremely unselfish play. It's a special culture. We got something going special here. Benson said Donor made a superb unselfish play. But I think you go around the room. I think any guy makes that. It's just the culture that's been built here. Zach's game is growing a lot. I think confidence-wise, offensively, it's getting to another level right now, said center Tage Thompson, who played with Benson quite a lot in his first half of the season. He's getting a little more opportunity to make plays and showcase the upside he has. He's been in a role where he's always had that tenacious, relentless rat quality. He's tough to play against, and he's got a lot of skill too. That Norris line has built a great identity, hunting and stealing pucks. Doan did it for a goal on Thursday against Columbus, and Benson has shown the ability to create turnovers as well. Opposing D are definitely looking over their shoulders when there's a couple of us barreling down on them, Benson said. A rare schedule break. The Sabres head off Friday. They practice Saturday. Are scheduled to practice again Sunday before flying to Chicago for Monday's game against the Blackhawks. It's the first time they had 3 days off in a row without a game since Christmas. Shocking, Ruff said with a laugh. Really, we thought maybe originally off ice again today, but there's some things we wanted to work on, a quick sense of it with the turnaround of playoffs around the corner. Oslin update, injured Sabre, Noah Oslin, Sam Carrick, and Alex Line remained off practice ice Saturday. Oslin, who has missed the last 8 games with an upper body injury, has been skating on his own and has not been ruled out for the start of the playoffs. Getting better, just one of those injuries that's just pain, Ruff said. It's pain management. As soon as we get that reduced, he'll be back. Now let's look at the Masters coverage. McIlroy sets record with a 6-shot lead. The only thing that stopped Rory McIlroy from the Masters was running out of holes to play Friday. McIlroy stood on the 12th tee in a tie with Patrick Reed with the help of a dozen other players bunched together in what was shaping up to be a compelling case for the green jacket. 6 birdies over the final 7 holes for a 7-under 65 left everyone to wonder if they were playing for second. McIlroy's 4th straight birdie to close out the best round of the week gave him a 6-shot advantage, setting Masters record for the largest 36-hole lead. I knew I had some chances coming in when I was standing on the 12th tee, but I didn't think I'd birdie 6 of the last 7, he said. It just shows what you can do around here. He did it in spectacular fashion. McIlroy twice made a birdie on par 5s after laying up from the trees. He twice had short putts on par 3s. And if all that wasn't enough, he chipped in from 30 yards up from a slope so steep you couldn't even see the hole. final hour of a fascinating day started to look like a victory lap for McIlroy, who spent 17 years trying to win the Masters and now looks like he can't wait to do it again. His tee shot over Ray Creek on the dangerous 12th hole landed 7 feet beyond the flag. He birdied both par 5s after having a layup from the trees. He took advantage of a lower pin at par 3, 16th for what amounted to a tap and birdie. And then he really set the gallery into a frenzy when he chipped in from 30 yards on the 17th. McIlroy knew it was good because I could see everyone in the grandstand start to stand up. And that was one more, and there was one more to go. Another perfect approach that came down from the slope to 6 feet from one last birdie. That put him at 12 under 132, 6 shots clear of Reed, 69. And Sam Burns, 71. The previous record for the largest 36-hole lead at Augusta National was 5 shots by 6 players, most notably Scotty Scheffler in 2022. The first was Harry Lighthorse Cooper in 1936, the only player in that position who did not win the Masters. If McIlroy holds on, he would become the 4th player to win back-to-back Masters, joining Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods. He had a 2-shot lead after 36 holes in 2011 and stretched it to 4 shots going into the final round before he famously imploded with an 80. That was the start of the Masters headache that lasted until a year ago, when he triumphed in the playoffs, finally proved he could win at Augusta National. Maybe he should start thinking about next year's menu for the Masters dinner. I know it can happen around here, good and bad, McIlroy said with a smile. You don't have to remind me not to get ahead of myself. It's a long way to go. I got off into an amazing start. Augusta followed that. It was warmer, brighter, drier. The wind wasn't quite as strong and the gust didn't swirl as much. There was much better scoring in part because of the more generous pin positions, including on 16 and 18, that clearly struck shots could feed toward the hole. The scores were nearly 2 shots lower than Thursday. That didn't help everyone, at least Bryson DeChambeau, who fought back from an opening 76 and was 1 shot below the cut line when it took him 2 shots to get out of the green side bunker on the 18th from the second shot rolling off the false front back down to the fairway. He made triple bogey and missed the cut. Reed was bogey free until failing to save par on the final hole. That also cost him a spot on the final group Saturday with McIlroy. The group paired together in the last group in 2018, and seemingly all of Augusta on McIlroy's side, only for Reed to win handily. Burns birdied his last 2 holes, salvages 71, and will be paired with McIlroy. Justin Rose, the playoff loser to McIlroy a year ago, had a rough day with putter and still shot 69 to be part of a group at 5, still under at 139. Now 7 shots behind, along with Shane Lowry and Tommy Fleetwood, who had 2 eagles in his round of 68. McIlroy took 3 weeks off heading to the Masters. No one since Adam Scott in 2013 won the Masters coming off a break that long, and felt it was to his advantage. He took multiple trips to Australia, sometimes day trips to get home for dinner, and spent most of his time working on his short game. I felt like I was part of the furniture, McIlroy said of his visit to the course. He took many visits to Augusta, He also had a 6-shot lead at the Congressional in 2011 U.S. Open. The major after he blew his big lead at the Masters, and he went on to win by 8. He learned that week to push on instead of protect, the same approach he plans for this weekend. Look, I built some nice cushion at this point, McIlroy said. I guess my mindset is just trying to keep playing well and keeping my foot on the gas. Now let's take a preview of the draft. The mock drafts, the modern television. Do you believe the Bills are more inclined for a trade up or a trade back? I would say trade back. I know I could test the patience of Bills fans by General Manager Brandon Beane could want a second round pick, and moving up would take too much. Adam Ritter asks, on what point is Brandon Beane on the hot seat? I assume having Brady now gives him at least a year. Your instinct is correct. Beane has some job security right now with the hiring of Joe Brady as the head coach. I think the fact is it takes a lot for Terry Pagula to move on from Beane, seeing as Pagula promoted him this offseason. The goal and the standards are clear. The Bills need to win it all. I think the Bills don't do so in the next few years. Pagula may have to consider what else could change to get over the hump. Still, the hot seat is little ways off. Master Bob Dublina asks, currently, what is the greatest positional need for the Bills? There seems to be several. Ambrose 21 asks, why are so many media mock drafts having the Bills take a corner with their first pick? It doesn't feel like the team's biggest need, and a lot have teams behind them taking nose tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, edge, or safety. Pairing these two questions together based on some overlapping themes, I think the biggest positional need, I agree, there are several, is whoever fills that outside linebacker spot, the need to get more up front. With that in mind, I'm very surprised to see mocks having the Bills take a cornerback at 26. Later round for depth makes sense, and the first round selection is odd. Maybe there's an argument for a bigger cornerback in Jim Leonard's system, but not enough to jump over the aforementioned needs. DJ Bob Cousy asks, what's going on with the kickers with Bass, Old Prater on the other guys they signed? How confident are we in this room? Beane expressed his confidence in kicker Tyler Bass this offseason as Bass rehabs from surgery over pelvic and groin injuries. Veteran kicker Mac Prater, who guided the Bills to the majority last season, is currently a free agent. When I talked to him at Locker Room Cleanout in January, he said he was going to take some time to consider his next step. I wouldn't be surprised if he walks off into retirement. The Bills have Matthias Trujillo on the roster right now as insurance, but all signs point to Bass for the 2026 campaign. He's still under contract, and Beane said the expectation is he'll kick this season. LazyTown 716 asks, I don't have any football-related questions at this time, so maybe let's go vibes base. Maybe you could match the overall vibe of the AFC East teams with the current hit TV shows, scripted or reality, dealer's choice on that. Save the most fun question for last. I will be honest, I'm not an avid TV watcher, but I am in tune with broad strokes of pop culture. So with that in mind, here we go. Buffalo Bills. My instinct is to go with the Game of Thrones. Spectacular ride, but unsatisfying ending. But I recognize that this is not a current TV show as requested. But too bad. It's my mailbag. New England Patriots Survivor. It's strong for a long time, and that had a slow stretch, but now it's back and dangerous as ever. The Miami Dolphins, the White Lotus, the glitz, the glam. Something tragic is certain to happen. The New York Jets. There are plenty of moments in I think you should leave. There are also awkward and make me physically recoil. A very memeable Jets makes me anxious. We're still trying to figure out who this is. Thanks for reading. Jay will be back with the mailbag next week. Double trouble. Annable Day, Jaden Trocchi named Co-Players of the Year after leading teams to state championships. It's a banner year for Section 6 girls basketball because of North Tonawanda senior Annable Day and Frewsburg's junior. Jaden Trocchi. Day, University of Buffalo signee, led North Tonawanda State Public School High School Athletic Association Class AA State Championship, capping a season in which the Lady Jacks won the section title for the first time. It was Section 6 first class AA girls basketball crown, and just the third largest school championship, joining Lockport 1994 Class A, Williamsville South 2015 Class A. Day averaged 20.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 4.8 steals, and 1.7 blocks per game. A little more than 90 minutes away down the I-90, Truckee led the Bears to a repeat effort at the New York State PHSSA Class C State Championship. Frewsburg is the 16th program ever to win back-to-back, just the second from Section 6, joining Pine Valley in 2023 to 2025 Class D. Truckee has offers from UB, St. Bonaventure, and Youngstown State. It was the first time at least two Section 6 girls basketball teams won state titles in the same year, achieving rare state championship feats as Division I talents as Y. Day and Truckee are sister Maria Paris Buffalo News Co-Players of the Year. Day is the first North Tonawanda player to win the award. Truckee is the first Frewsburg player to win the award and first small school player to earn the honor since Franklinville's Daniel Haskell in 2019. Day's homecoming. Back in June, North Tonawanda's first-year coach Ryan Brandt met with his new team and asked a simple question: why do you play? He heard variances of it's fun and I like my teammates. Then he got to Day, who returned to North Tonawanda 1 year earlier, having spent 2 years at Cardinal O'Hara. She didn't hesitate. I love to compete, Brandt recalls Day saying. It was the type of response Brandt was waiting for, and it came from the best player. Months later, they led the team to the top of Class AA. For Day, the journey of the state title wasn't about hardware, but more about zip code. After 2 seasons at Cardinal O'Hara, where she reached multiple state finals and fell short, Day wanted to return to North Tonawanda to find her career. It meant so much because I got to do it with the girls I started to play basketball with. They said we grew up playing North Tonawanda basketball in little leagues. As little girls, we always wanted this, to do it as seniors and to do it with my little sister Lily. It's everything. The Day sisters became the pulse of the team. Lily is also Division I prospect with an offer from UB. While they share a bloodline and passion for the game, Annabelle believes her sister is the reason she became so good. She's the person who pushes me most in training, Annabelle said. Trockee's Frewsburg's rare feat. Only 16 girl programs in the history of New York State Public High School Athletic Association have repeated as state champions. That list now includes Frewsburg. After the Bears climbed to their second state title, they too got a hero's welcome. The sirens began sounding 10 miles around the team before the team crossed the town line. Police escort met the bus. Then came the fire trucks leading a procession back into town. For the players, the sight of local residents outside was, with the closing ceremony for a mission some thought wasn't possible at the start of the season. It was cool just how it gathered around us, Truckee Jr. said. The police department picked us up 10 minutes before from home, and the fire department led us into town for 4 or 5 miles. The streets were lined with community members. It was a pretty awesome feeling. The feeling was earned as Frewsburg accomplished a rare feat going back-to-back by winning its second consecutive Class C title. It became the 16th repeat championship. Frewsburg is the 5th program in Class C history to do it, first since Millbrook went back-to-back in 2022 and 23. Trahakee's leadership. Trahakee averaged 21.2 points, 5.5 assists, 4.8 rebounds, 1.8 blocks, 4.5 steals per game. Every opponent knew about Trahakee. She has to deal with defenses working hard to get the ball out of her hands. She's really had to pivot from being a creator to a scorer, Beaver said. Once she figured it out, she went into cruise control. Last 5 or 6 games, she was able to get her shot off anytime she wanted. Trahakee admitted some of the pressure was internal. I had some struggles with confidence, Trahakee said. As the season went on, I realized my coaches and teammates all have my back. It helped me to get back on my feet. Role players. While Trahakee provided leadership, she could only do so much herself. Beaver noted that while other teams might have more skill, none possessed the Bears' togetherness. In the state final, senior Avery Harvey in foul trouble. Players who bounced between junior varsity had to step into the heat. These kids really had to help it to step in and play a lot of minutes in the first half, Beaver said. The selflessness is what allows us to get it done. Now let's look at the scoreboard. In baseball, the American League, Friday's results. Kansas City 2, Chicago White Sox nothing. Tampa Bay 5, New York Yankees 3, Toronto 10, Minnesota 4, Seattle 9, Houston 6, San Diego 5, Colorado 2. Interleague, Detroit beat Miami 2-0, Los Angeles 10, Cincinnati 2. The Athletics beat the Mets 4-0. Atlanta topped Cleveland 10-5, San Francisco 6, Baltimore 3. St. Louis 3, Boston 2, LA Dodgers 8, Texas 7. Saturday's results, Sunday's games, Minnesota at Toronto at 1:37 p.m. The Yankees play at Tampa Bay at 1:40. Chicago White Sox at Kansas City at 2:10. Houston at Seattle at 4:10 p.m. National League, Arizona at Philadelphia at 1:35. Washington at Milwaukee. Pittsburgh at Chicago at 2:20. Colorado at San Diego at 4:10. Interleague, Texas at the LA Dodgers at 4:10 p.m. San Francisco at Baltimore at 1:35. The Athletics at the Mets at 1:40 p.m. Los Angeles at Cincinnati at 1:40 p.m. Miami at Detroit. Boston at St. Louis at 2:15 p.m. and Cleveland at Atlanta at 7:20 p.m. Now let's take a look at the NHL. Thursday's result: the Penguins beat the Devils 5-2. The Islanders topped Toronto 5-3. Ottawa 5, Florida 1. Buffalo beat Columbus 5-0. Detroit topped Philadelphia 6-3. Montreal beat Tampa Bay 2-1. Winnipeg topped St. Louis 3-2. Carolina 7-2 over Chicago. Colorado topped Calgary 3-1. Utah 4, Nashville 1. Dallas 5, Minnesota 4. Anaheim 6, San Jose 1. Seattle beat Vegas 4-3 in a shootout. The Kings topped Vancouver 4-1. Sunday's games: Pittsburgh at Washington at 3 p.m. Boston at Columbus at 6 p.m. Montreal at the Islanders at 6 p.m. Ottawa at Jersey at 7 p.m. Vancouver at Anaheim at 8 p.m. Utah at Calgary at 9 p.m. NBA Friday results: Miami 140, Washington 117, Atlanta 124, Cleveland 102, Detroit 118, Charlotte 100, Philadelphia 105, Indiana 94, Boston 144, New Orleans 118, New York 112, Toronto 95, San Antonio 139, Dallas 120, Orlando 120, Chicago 103, Milwaukee 125, Brooklyn 108, Denver 127, Oklahoma City 107, Utah 147, Memphis 101, Minnesota 136, Houston 132, Portland 116, LA Clippers 97, Sacramento 124, Golden State 118, Los Angeles Lakers 101, Phoenix 73. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for April 12th. We read from the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m., rebroadcasted at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your reader today has been Ron Bickelman. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of Buffalo Magazine. Following that, at noon, is the Sunday Gusto. And at 1 o'clock is the Sunday front section of the New York Times. Stay with us for these readings and more.
following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability